good to see some familiar faces and some new ones as well. My name is Delaney Duchek, and I'm here with Kelsey Ellis. We are both master students in the Health and Wellness Lab, and we also teach a couple ACE classes as well. If you've had us as instructors before, I'm sorry that you'll have to see our faces again today. So the topic of today's session is how to incorporate some more exercise or movement into your daily life while we're all kind of stuck at home in this, pretty isolating environment. So we're both super excited to be here today, get a little bit of movement and education in with you all today as well. So as you all know, well, Kelsey and I have been trying to stay moving and active as much as possible in the last year, but it's definitely a little bit harder again, when you're stuck inside your four walls or some facilities aren't open, maybe you can't go swimming in pools, things like that, if that's what you like to do. So again, hopefully we'll present some different ways to be more active in your home environment. So as you can see from the slide, what we'll be talking about today is just a little bit of education on the types of exercise and the guidelines for exercising with cancer, a few tips and tricks on how to be more active in our home environment, and then just a brief summary of that session content at the end. Also, throughout the duration of the session, if you ever have any questions, please feel free to pop off of mute, give us a wave, just speak up or type in the chat as well if you have questions. We will try our best to answer them throughout the session. All right, so we will start with the fun stuff here. So fundamentals of exercise. Looking at these two, kind of large terms, I'm sure you've all heard them both before. So we have physical activity or movement. We kind of refer to them as the same thing, and then exercise. So does anybody know the specific difference between these two terms or want to give a stab at explaining the two differences? And you can type in the chat, pop off of mute if you want to give it a stab. And if not, that's a-okay. They seem very much the exact same. Okay, fair enough. So again, those two terms are very similar. They use intention. Yeah, that's a very much close to the bar, Karen. So yeah, intention is very much a part of the exercise and physical activity. So with that, physical activity or movement is more of an umbrella term that encompasses all things of movement. So physical activity refers to throughout your day, again, maybe you stand up off the chair, you lift your coffee mug to your mouth, you're going for a walk, all that stuff without exact intention, Karen, like you said, is referred to as physical activity. So anything that uses energy throughout your day. On the other hand, we have that exercise, which is, again, definitely right, Karen, that intention to improve at least one aspect of fitness. It's more structured, it's more planned. So maybe you want to improve your leg muscle strength, you go to the gym, say, and you do some squats. That's definitely more of an intention to strengthen that leg muscle and improve that aspect of fitness. So again, that's kind of that differentiation there. Exercise is just more of a little bubble underneath that physical activity umbrella. So even simple movements, again, throughout your day, sitting up and down from your chair, I'll use an example throughout the whole presentation today. That's all physical activity, that's all movement. And the great thing for us being stuck at home is that even to get those benefits of being active, again, you don't have to do 100 squats at the gym. You can do, again, just sitting up and down from your chair, little things like that, that can really get that benefit of moving throughout your day, which is, again, pretty lucky for us that we can do that even in this crazy situation that we are in. So again, I'll kind of keep moving on here, but if anybody wants to share your favorite way to be active or things that you have found that have helped you to be active over the last year, pop it in the chat and then we'll kind of discuss it a little bit more at the end of the session with Kelsey as well. So exercise guidelines and recommendations. So we would just like to highlight these American College of Sports Medicine or ACSM guidelines. Super fancy term, I know, but these are specific guidelines for cancer survivors. So they're evidence-based guidelines that outline how often, how long, and how intense people living with or beyond cancer can exercise on a weekly basis to receive the most benefits out of being active. So I really just want to, before I get into the specifics of the guidelines, just highlight that these are just guidelines. So again, I'll spit out some exact minutes, some exact frequency, but again, they are kind of just that threshold level of if you reach that amount of activity throughout the week, that's when you'll see the most benefits of being active. So again, are just guidelines. But specifically for people living with cancer, the guidelines for being active are 90 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic exercise per week, 2 days of strength or resistance training per week, and then flexibility training or stretching on most days of the week. So if you don't know what those are, I will explain it in a little bit here, but those are those specific guidelines for people living with cancer. And again, don't want to get you overwhelmed or even defeated when thinking about these guidelines. They are, again, just kind of that overarching, again, umbrella of what you can be doing to get that benefit of activity. So even if going outside for a walk for 10 minutes on days you're feeling super fatigued or tired is challenging, that's completely okay. It's all a part of the cancer journey. So again, just really emphasizing that these are guidelines of what you can do throughout that week to be active. So next, Kelsey, you're so good at changing the slides. We just wanted to highlight a different, more recent set of movement guidelines. So these ones aren't cancer specific, but we wanted to bring them up because they're super, I think, important for highlighting that, the message that we really want to get across. So sitting less and moving more, these guidelines do a great job of getting that message across. So basically there's 4 kind of major categories of these guidelines, but the 2 that I really want you to focus on are, again, that physical activity or that exercise that we just went over. So the 90 minutes of aerobic exercise, 2 strength training and flexibility training on most days. That's a part of this as well. And the second part is limiting your sedentary or your seated time. So, you know, being at home, we're seated, I think, a lot throughout the day, especially if you're working at home. So these guidelines really just state to limit your sedentary time to no more than 8 hours per day. So really all it's saying is that even if you're standing, that's not sedentary. So it really just, again, emphasizes that point of sitting less, moving more, which we'll say again a million times throughout this presentation. But these guidelines do a really good job of getting that point across, and that's kind of why we wanted to bring those ones up. Beautiful. All right, and then these are, again, I promised I would elaborate more on these fancy terms for the type of exercise that we can do. So again, you see here the aerobic, strength, and flexibility training. So those were all in the guidelines that we mentioned earlier. So aerobic training is also known as cardio training. So it trains that cardiovascular system, which is, you know, your heart, your blood, your lungs, everything that provides oxygen to the rest of your body. So a little bit important in the big scheme of things, but aerobic or cardio training just trains that cardiovascular system and increases the stamina of that system. So if you want to be able to go for a 4-hour walk because you're crazy, it allows you to do that if you train that system and increases that endurance and that stamina. So that's what aerobic training is. As you can see examples on the screen there, even just going for a walk, a little dance party in your kitchen while you're cooking or taking the stairs, that's all considered aerobic training that you can do at home. So that's number 1. Number 2 is strength training, resistance training, or weight training. They're all the exact same thing. So basically, again, what that really is just a method used to increase strength and to build strong and healthy muscles. So there's many different types of equipment or ways that you can incorporate resistance training into your daily life or into your workout regime. I'm sure when you think of strength training, you picture a gym. When you walk into a gym, there's a million different, you know, band machines and weight machines, and then there's a million dumbbells on the walls and things like that. But it doesn't have to be like that. Like I said, even standing up and down from your chair, that's strength training. You know, a body weight squat is strength training. Other ones here, carrying your groceries, things like that. So there's lots of ways to incorporate strength training into your life, or into your daily life, sorry, without equipment or even just with your body weight. So that's a great thing, again, about movement and physical activity. And then last year we have flexibility, which is just a fancy word, sorry, girls, for stretching. So again, that's your ability to move around, keep your range of motion in your joints, stretch, bend, twist, all that good stuff. Definitely a more neglected component of fitness. But again, going back to those guidelines, it's something that should be done every day. It's a great thing to, again, incorporate into your daily life while you're watching TV, you know, you're stretching on the couch, things like that. So again, it's just your ability to really move your body in a more limber way. And again, examples on the screen, doing some yoga online from home, stretching while watching TV, there you go, or even just rolling your shoulders while you're sitting down. So those are kind of, again, those 3 major components of those guidelines that we talked about earlier. And then Kelsey will take over from here. Is raking the lawn all three? Yes, raking the lawn, definitely all three aspects there, Joanne, yes. Great, thank you, Delaney. So now that we've talked a little bit about the principles of exercise and movement, some guidelines, and the different types of exercise and movement, we're gonna talk specifically about some tips and tricks to move more at home when we don't have access to, our regular physical activity equipment or environments. How can we sit less and move more at home? So we have some strategies laid out here, but it's not a one size fits all. Hopefully, maybe one or two of these things might be helpful for you in the future. And as I go through these, I encourage you to also think about what has helped you in the past, over the past year, to move more at home, because we're going to open it up after this slide to a little bit of discussion. So I encourage you to think about that. What has helped you move more at home? What is a tip or trick that you think could help other people on the call today? So our first tip is to set a reminder to take movement breaks. So we really want to emphasize this, to break up your sitting time. So evidence shows that it doesn't actually take that much time to receive the health benefits of exercise. So a great way, if you don't have a lot of time to commit to exercise throughout your day, is to set a reminder, break up that sitting time, add a little bit more movement here and there, and all of those minutes will add up. So this is a great way to make sure that you're not spending long periods of time sitting down. And if you don't have a lot of time to commit to exercise, also a great way to overcome that barrier. Our second tip here is to set hourly, daily, or weekly at-home movement goals. So this can help you move more at home and maintain that movement in the long term, and help you schedule those activities into your daily life. So some examples could be every hour on the hour, standing up, walking around for 5 minutes. That could be your goal. Or maybe it's doing 10 of your favorite exercises once per day, or every hour on the hour. Finding what works for you, setting that goal that's important to you, and getting the benefits that you want, whether it's flexibility-based, strength-based, or cardio-based. Setting yourself up for success by setting those movement goals that are important for you. Our third tip here is to use your brain. So you can use strategies to help distract yourself, keep your mind busy while you're being active. And this can be a great strategy to use at home. So this can include listening to music, listening to a podcast, moving or stretching while watching your favorite TV show. It's a great way to lose yourself in movement. And it can be a great strategy if, you don't have a lot of time to contribute to exercise throughout your day. You don't want to miss your favorite TV show or whatever that is. So contributing that and combining the two can really help you move more at home. Our final tip is to find an accountability partner. So I'm sure that you've heard this before. Sharing your at-home movement goals, making movement plans with the people in your life can really help you stick to it and move more. So maybe it's planning distance get-togethers around being active, going for a walk. We know that social support is incredibly important and is a predictor of maintaining movement in the long term. So now that you've heard some of our tips and tricks, we would love to hear from you. So we would love to hear. You can write in the chat, you can unmute yourself. What have you done to move more at home? What are some tips and tricks that you have that you could share with the rest of the group? And what are some barriers that you face to moving more at home, and how did you overcome this? What we're going to do is a little bit of a movement break. So Delaney and I will be taking you through some at-home movement that you can do from your home, from your chair, no equipment necessary. So feel free to follow along. I'm going to not share my slides for this part here so that you can see us a little bit better, hopefully. All right, team. So first up, what we're going to do, feel free to follow along. I'm going to be focusing a lot on the techniques while doing these movements. So all of these can be done from your chair, and Delaney will be showing the lower impact variation when that applies, and then I will be going through kind of the higher impact variations. So first up, what we're going to do is just set our posture. So we really want to focus on posture during all of these movements, and really anytime we're moving. So bringing our shoulders slightly back, shoulders are down away from our ears, nice and relaxed. We're also going to be focusing on our breath during these movements, making sure we're breathing out during the harder part of these movements. We're just going to start by doing some shoulder rolls, starting with a little bit of mobility. So we're mostly going to be focusing today on mobility and strength. So it's going to be nice, simple movements that you can do to break up that sedentary time. The next one we're going to do is our lateral arm raise. So bringing those arms up parallel to the ground and back down. Here we're working a big muscle in our shoulder called our deltoid. So this is a great movement you can do at home. If you're wanting to make this harder, you don't have weights at home, a water bottle can be a great weight, a can of chickpeas. There's so many ways that you can use objects at home to make that strength training a little bit harder, a little bit more challenging. We've got Delaney showing the modification of going with bent arm, which can be good to take some of the pressure off your shoulder. Next, what we're gonna do is some small circles. So this is, again, focusing on strength, focusing on keeping those shoulders down away from our ears. You're gonna notice right away, it's a lot harder than it looks. A great strength exercise to do at home. We're gonna start to build bigger circles now, getting more into mobility, range of motion through our shoulders. So hopefully some of these movements are familiar to you. For those of you who are ACE or Excel participants, I'm sure that you've seen these before. Awesome. Doing a few backwards, a few forward, going to the range of motion that feels good for you. The next one we're gonna do is called an archer. So we're gonna extend our left arm out. We're gonna reach our right arm across our body towards that left arm, and we're gonna pull it back like we are an archer, squeezing in between our shoulder blades. So this can be both a mobility and a strength exercise. If you do have a towel or a resistance band at home, you can hold that in between your hands here and add a little bit of resistance. But what we want to focus on is engaging our upper back, pulling our shoulder blades together and squeezing in between those shoulder blades. Once we do about 5 per side, we're going to switch sides here. Extending our right arm out. Focusing on that engagement in your upper back. Nice, slow and controlled movements. Looking good, everyone. Again, if you don't feel like joining in, we're focusing a lot on the technique today so that you can do these at home on your own. Our next one we're gonna do is bringing our arms into a W. This is a little bit of a nice stretch for you. We're gonna bring those arms out front like we're holding a beach ball, and we're just gonna drop our chin to our chest. So this is a great way to release some of that tension in our neck and our traps. You can even rock your head side to side if that feels good. So if you're spending a lot of time at your desk working during the day, this can be a great way to help release some of that tension in our upper back. Awesome. Our next one we're going to do is a core engagement exercise right from your chair. So starting by keeping that good posture, you're going to engage your core by bringing that belly button back towards your spine, and you're just going to start by driving your knees up to your chest. And this can be a great one to do while you're watching TV. Just adding a little bit of strength work into your day. We know core strength is very, very important, so it can be a great one to do. Awesome. All right. Our next one we're going to do is a lower body exercise. So I'm going to show the lower intensity modification, which is our leg extension. So extending one leg at a time, squeezing through that leg, feeling that engagement in our quads. Now, if you're looking for something a little bit more challenging today, we're going to get into some sit to stands, or stick with Delaney if that's feeling good for your body today. So if you're wanting more of a challenge, going to that sit to stand, breaking up that sitting time like we were talking about, standing straight up from your chair, you want to make sure those knees are aligned with your toes. You're squeezing through your glutes as you get to the top of that movement. Awesome, team. We're looking good. So we've got a little bit of a mix here. We've done some upper body, some core and lower body strength movement, and we're going to get into some lower body mobility now. So once we do about 5 of those, we're going to bring one of our knees to our chest. This is a great way to release some tension in our low back. And this can be done lying down when you're in your bed, or this can be done from your couch when you're watching your favorite TV show. We're going to switch sides here. Focusing on that breath, going to the range of motion that feels good for you here. Our next one we're going to do is a quad stretch. So you can do this one standing, or look to Delaney for the seated variation. So our standing option here is bringing that ankle back towards our glute, stretching out that quad, or looking to Delaney for what looks like a modified lunge, where we're working a little bit on our quad and our hip mobility here. And relaxing that leg back down. We're going to switch sides here. Awesome, crew. Now, ideally, when you're doing these at home, you want to be holding them for 30 to 60 seconds. We are going to go a little bit faster through since we don't have that much time today. The next one and last one we're going to do is our figure 4 position. So if you're doing this from a seated position, the hardest stretch is bringing that ankle all the way above your knee. If that does not feel comfortable for you today, that can go anywhere on your shin, wherever that range of motion takes you, wherever that feels comfortable, finding that spot. So if you can get that onto your knee, that's great. If you feel that stretch while it's on your shin, that is also great. And you can add a little bit more here by doing some circles with your upper body while you're sitting there. Again, avoiding any tension, points of tension or pain or movements that cause pain here. Just adding a little bit of range of motion. And we're gonna switch sides here, bringing that other leg up above our knee, adding in a little bit of mobility. This is a great one for your glutes, for your hips. Again, no equipment necessary. And we're gonna relax back down. Awesome. I hope everyone's energy is feeling a little bit different, feeling a little bit more limber after some movement. So those are just some examples of what you can do at home, no equipment necessary, some examples of some strength exercises and some mobility. We will be posting at the end of this in the chat a link to our YouTube channel that has some more chair-based movements if that's something that you're interested in doing. We also have some other resources on our YouTube channel if you're interested. So now that we've gone through a little bit tips and tricks on moving more at home, we're going to get into some strategies to move more in the long term. These can be for at home and hopefully in the future when we're out of this pandemic. So the first one is to continue to look at movement differently. It's all exercise. So like Delaney said, doesn't necessarily need to be going to the gym and working out. Simply sitting up and down from your chair, sitting less and moving more is greatly beneficial to your health and well-being. The second strategy we have here is to get off the beaten path. So this is more so for our regular exercisers who are moving regularly but might feel stagnant or might feel tired of the same old routine. So trying something new, maybe trying a new online wellspring class or going for a walk while talking on the phone with a friend if that's not part of your routine. Switching it up, keeping it fresh so that you continue to stay motivated in your activities. Our third tip here is go group. So we know, again, that social support is so important, and a lot of you are ACE participants, so you have access to this group of people who are understanding your struggles and your barriers to moving more. So sharing with them your movement plans, maybe planning group activities where you can be distance, going for a walk or whatever it is, harnessing the power of social support in that group can be so beneficial to maintain that movement in the long term. And we know that so many group programs now exist online through the pandemic. So I encourage you to check out maybe Wellspring or our ACE and Excel classes, which can be great resources. Our fourth tip here is to use a script to prevent any slips from becoming lapses. So if you're constantly telling yourself, I'll be more active tomorrow, I'll be more active next week, which is incredibly common, having an answer to change that mindset. So maybe it's picturing the last time you were physically active. How did you feel? What were those benefits that you experienced? And using that as motivation to be more active today. So again, this is not a one size fits all. Hopefully one or two of these can be beneficial to you, but there's lots of different strategies to maintain movement in the long term, and these are just some examples. And now our take home message from today's session is really to sit less and move more. So when Delaney mentioned those guidelines, we really want to enforce that these are simply guidelines, and adding any and all movement into your daily life will contribute to your health and well-being. It's important to find activities that you enjoy doing to maintain that motivation. And really what we want to reinforce today is the importance of sitting less and moving more while we are spending so much time at home, and it's that much easier to just be sedentary during your day. So even 5 to 10 minutes of walking, those chair-based movements that we did to break up that sitting time can be incredibly beneficial. So thank you all for listening today. We're happy to take any comments, questions, concerns at this time.